Hi, my name is Matt.
I'm Aaron.
This is part two of the One Piece companion discussion saga. Today we're going to be talking about the Alabaster saga, which consists of the Reverse Mountain arc, the Whiskey Peak arc, the Little Garden arc, uh, Drum Island arc, and of course the Alabaster arc.
This one almost feels more like Double Saga. It's a huge number of chapters in the manga, a large number of episodes in the anime, and it really shows off a lot of the character development that you're going to see for a long time. You pick up at least one crew member, you pick up Chopper, you get to meet all of the Baroque's characters, if you will. They were very humorous. You get introduced to the Giants. So you get a lot of real lore about the world in addition to just the character development that exists.
This is the first part of the Grand Line, and I'm going to say it up front. This is my least favorite arc or saga in the whole One Piece thing.
Yeah, he's a cranky pants.
No, it's one simple reason. This is the arc where you get introduced to Crocodile fairly early on, and it takes forever to get to Crocodile. So, like, that on the journey you're going to be taking on Crocodile, but he's the villain, and it takes him a while for just to even learn his name.
Yep.
But because it takes so long, you're just like, once you get to the end, you're just waiting for it to be done.
I mean, that's true, but at the same time, you look at the bounty levels, because of course in this world, your bounty is equivalent to your power level.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you look at the bounty jump from what Don Krieg was to, Crocodile, who sits at, 50 million?
I forget what
something like that.
It's a lot, but it's...
And on top of which, he's your first Shichibukai that you come into contest with?
He's... Well, what Aaron said in Japanese just now was...
Warlord.
Go
ahead.
Which there's 7 of, which, until recently, I thought Arlong was one of the warlords, but no. It turns out, another character is that you'll meet later on.
Yeah, much later.
So, the first arc is Reverse Mountain arc. So, the crew left Log Town, and they're going up the river over the mountain, and they have to come down the river into the mountain. That's where East Blue left you, and the first thing they see when they get to the Grand Line is a giant fucking whale.
Laboon!
And
scarred and hurt.
So they meet this whale that is constantly ramming the wall. So there's a doctor at the other end that's waiting with the Laboon, the whale, and he's hollowed out the whale, and he's direct injecting into his brain drugs so that he just calms down.
Yeah, he needs to sedate him, otherwise instead of hurting himself, he'll kill himself. And you find out throughout the arc that what he's trying to do is get into the location, actually, where his friend went.
Well, multiple friends. Like, you realize that there was...
I believe he's before the mountain, right? Not after?
No, he's in the Grand Line.
Is he in the Grand Line? I always thought he was in East Blue trying to get in. Okay.
No, he's trying to get out because he thinks the pirate crew that he was friends with, he thinks they went back without him because they were friends with him, and he followed them over the Grand Line. So he's trying to get back to East Blue so that he can hang out with the people that he was with before, but he also thinks his friends are out there, so he waited for his friends who are on the Grand Line, and you find out later on what happened to them, but...
that's a long way in the future.
Yeah, that's like 3 or 4 arcs, that's
several hundred chapters.
Like, you imagine, being a fan, because One Piece celebrated its 20th anniversary a few months or weeks ago.
Yeah,
and
months.
Starting out when you're 10 years old, you're reading something, and then when you're 15, a plot point pays off, and then when you're 18, another one pays off.
I mean, now you're looking at it, you're 30, and points are just starting to pay off.
So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when the Fox Box version of One Piece came out. I want to say it was early 2000s,
I don't remember.
but I watched that and that it was so good that Fox couldn't screw it up bad enough.
They tried.
Like they turned Sanji from a smoker to a lollipop sucker.
Yeah.
Which for me as a kid, that works. And now I look at it, it's like ridiculous, but
Yeah.
like they just had to cut out all the shots of him lighting up the lollipop, I guess.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's an interesting arc, though. I mean, you get some really cool points with it. I mean, I'm a fan of the Baroque Works component. I'm sorry.
Baroque Works is cool.
You know, the whole concept of Mr. 2, Mr. 3, Mr. 27.
Yeah. Well, you meet...
so on the nose.
the first two villains, one of which that you're introduced to...
the Gravity Chick, right?
Well, no. Gravity Chick was next. Because first you're introduced to the guy with the double baseball bats.
Right.
Who is Mr. 19 or something? Or
something like that. I don't remember.
High up number. And then...
high is relative, but yeah.
Then it was... what was her name? Wednesday? Sunday? Friday? Saturday?
Something like that. She was
anyway,
also a low number.
Well, the way... Her real name is Evie.
Yeah.
And the way Baroque works is you have a number and a day, and they're partnered up. So you always see two agents of Baroque Works at all times, but they also team up and all that. So Reverse Mountain, you get the two people that are trying to capture Laboon, or they're trying to get something with Laboon.
Well, he's worth a lot of money for his oil and for his fat and all that stuff.
So there's that.
They're trying to take him because he's rare.
And, of course, the Straw Hat Pirates beat them back.
Unsurprisingly.
Yeah, so Luffy, makes friends with Laboon because he's Luffy.
Why not? Whales are good friends.
Yep.
They obviously never forget if he's willing to be banging against the wall for 20 years.
Was it 20 years? It was a long time.
It was at least that long. It might have been longer.
Well, the one character you got to remember about this is the doctor that's treating Laboon. You come out.
He's old.
He's old, and you find out later. I don't know about later, but I think they at the end of the arc, Luffy doesn't realize it, but the audience is let in on the fact that he was the doctor on Gold D. Rogers'
ship. Yep.
So he was a part of the crew.
Luffy ends up knowing a lot of that crew unintentionally.
Well, he knew Shanks.
And, of course, he met Buggy.
Though
he didn't know it at the time, and you don't know it at this point either.
I'm trying to remember when they dropped that knowledge on you.
They don't drop that knowledge, I think, until the Ace arc. Long in the future.
Probably. Anyway, so, from Reverse Mountain arc, you go to Whiskey Peak arc, and this has my favorite episode of the entire series.
Which one?
It's Zoro versus everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And Zoro fucking beats them all down.
You realize that Zoro was offered a spot in Baroque Works, and he turned it down. He had no interest in doing that kind of work.
Nope.
Because he was a pirate hunter at the time, so the Straw Hats show up at this one island, and I'm trying to remember. They have a log posting at this point, right?
Yeah, they have a log post. You have to have it once you get into the Grand Line.
So once you get into the Grand Line, a regular compass does not work.
Nope, you have to have a log post, and the log post specifically needs time at each island to reset to find the next one.
So you can't leave certain islands too quickly.
Yeah, thus you can force plot points without it being, ridiculous.
Yep.
Some islands take a day, some take an hour, some take a week.
Well, the book says some islands could take years.
Yeah.
So
they've luckily not found those yet.
Well, they're not going to put them on there because they either have to get around it or.
Well, and they do have a way around it. They're eventually given an eternal pose, but that's much later in the future.
Well, eternal poses only point to
one island.
To So
one
if you
location.
need to get to a specific spot, which you'll find out in this arc, because they have an eternal pose for Alabaster.
Do they?
Yeah,
That's right. Vivi has one. Yep.
Vivi has one, and I think one of the Baroque Works guys has one.
Yeah, and essentially, but so this forces them to spend time at each island and sort of become part of the plot.
So
Whiskey Peak is hysterical because they effectively go to a location that's in constant party mode.
Yep.
And it's, of course, instead of a plot to get them all drunk and stupor.
Yeah, and rob them.
Fat, and then kill them. Rob them,
kill them, rob them, get their bounties. But Zoro, I think, can drink so much and Luffy can eat so much that it doesn't affect them the way that
it should.
It should. So Zoro wakes up first and he takes on the entire town. That's the only way to describe it.
Yeah, he literally beats them all into a pulp.
But my second favorite part of this is
which is my favorite part. Is this your second favorite part?
All right, go ahead.
Luffy wakes up a little later than Zoro. Zoro, of course, initially at his conflict states that a swordsman never gets drunk. Luffy gets up having slept, because that's what Luffy does. Yep. 6 times his normal size in permanent balloon mode. And all Luffy sees in his idiocy is Zoro beating the poop out of all these people that just gave them all this free food and drink.
Yep.
So Luffy goes on a rampage and attacks Zoro, telling him to stop. And they go at it.
Yep. So
for the first time, for real.
This is the first that I could think of where the crew, because in superhero comics, you get it all the time where when two heroes first meet, that one thinks the other's a villain, so they fight. Like this one, they're working in the crew versus the crew episodes, and these are always really fun. My favorite crew versus the crew episode is a couple of stories away from here, and it's Usopp versus Luffy, and
I remember that.
That one had a lot of fun to it. It was
well, it was the difference in how they fight.
But I'm not going to get into that.
But we're a little ahead of schedule there, buddy.
That's 2 or 3 arcs from now.
Yeah.
So
that's in the Alabaster Arc.
So Whiskey Peak introduces the fact that the one girl that you met from Baroque Works at the first time is actually a princess to Alabaster, and the one guy that's fighting with them is her attendant.
Yeah, the knight. So
there's another important character that's introduced here, and that's Nico Robin, who is...
Is this where we meet Robin?
Yeah, it's at the end of Whiskey Peak, before Little Garden, and...
Okay. I thought it was at Little Garden. That makes sense.
No, it's right before Little Garden, so she's the one that sends them to... or she knows that they're going to Little Garden because that's next on the red line for them. But the it's right after the guy who's her Vivi's attendant.
Mm-hmm.
He dresses up like Vivi, thinking that I'll distract him or whatever.
Yeah.
Ship blows up. The bomb goes off and Nico Robin appears. That's how it goes.
Okay.
So she's was she Wednesday or Zero or...
I don't remember.
She was a day of the week.
She was a day of the week. I don't remember which day.
Isn't I'm trying to remember. Was everyone that was a day of the week female? It sounds...
I think so.
I think so. If you were a female, you were a day of the week. If you were a guy, you were a number.
I'm not sure if that was a rule or if it was just the ones that we were calling. Mm-hmm. I'd have to double check. But I do remember that being a pattern.
Okay, so...
Little Garden's probably one of my favorite pieces of this whole saga. First off, you meet what is probably my favorite character, which is Mr. 3, the Candleman. Mm-hmm. I love him. He's hysterical. He's your overpowered coward. Those types of characters just get me enjoying stuff. Because he can do so many things and his power is so useful. And yet he's completely afraid of true hand-to-hand combat or true direct combat.
Because he's very weak, but he almost wins taking out everybody. Almost.
Yeah, and of course, the bad guys have to make a stupid mistake. By all rights, they should all be dead.
Well, this was the first arc where you got the sense that the guys that they were going up against could beat them.
Yeah, not only could, but they were smart.
Yeah.
You know, in the past, you had the people who would just come at you head on. They would tell you how badass they were. They would attack you, and then magically the superheroes would win.
Yeah.
These guys were intelligent. They had retreating tactics. They had traps and plots.
Yep.
And you got the sense that you could really lose either one of your crew or everyone.
So, Whiskey Peak, or past Whiskey, Little Garden has two giants on it. And
Groggy and Dory.
So, this is a very Usopp centric arc because, like, Usopp is a coward, and like giants are not. like you tell
Most
it,
of them.
like no, pretty much every giant is like I want to die on my feet, like sword in hand, let's go.
Yeah, pretty much. Other than they weren't really giants; they were kids.
Like,
so yeah, no, they're all pretty much let's take it on.
Like, I'm curious, like, when the Giant Island arc is gonna happen.
I can't wait to meet Elbaf.
Because Elbaf is the name of the island, and Usopp says he's gonna go, and this is one of those things, like a lot of the characters, like, interests will be paid off eventually. Like,
yeah, I think supposedly they all will. I mean, eventually we'll find all blue for Sanji, and naturally, of course, you know, Luffy's whole thing is One Piece.
Well, he wants to be king of the pirates. That's not necessarily like One Piece is like the destination, but it's not the goal.
Well, by getting the One Piece, you become the king of the pirates.
Wow.
According to Roger, he sets the rules.
Well, I don't know. We don't know.
Dead men tell all the tales.
We don't know what One Piece is.
Not a damn clue. Although we have some hints.
Like,
but they're no more than theories, and also way far off into the future.
Like, it's probably another 20 years, at least 15 years away.
Yeah. Until we find out. Oh, gotcha. Raftel's not really there.
So.
So the two giants are sort of centric to this whole concept. They've been fighting each other for a reason that neither of them can remember for a very extended period of time.
It's revealed why they were fighting, but they were fighting for 100 years, because giants live a very long life.
Yep.
And they were fighting for 100 years, and they were the two heads of the giant pirates.
Yep.
And
a very feared crew, of course.
Yeah. So, of course, like, the story with them is, like, a little girl, like, not even out of fear or whatever, she asked either which one of you is stronger, or, like, which one of you caught the bigger fish. Because I can't remember which...
It was something along those lines, and giants, of course, are very competitive.
Oh, yeah.
And they, of course, didn't agree on who, won that, because... Well, if you're co-captains of a massive crew,
yeah,
why would you back down to your co-captain?
But what I think happened was she said, which of you is stronger, and then they decided they were going to figure it out on Little Garden, and the two fish because they caught two giant sea beasts, and the first time you see the island, you see the skeletons of these two things, and you see one episode where... they catch them, and they're fighting over which one is bigger, and one says mine's wider, and the other one says mine's longer. So then they just start fighting for 100 years. Every day they have a duel for 100 years,
and they just constantly tie.
But when Baroque Works gets involved, one of the agents poisons or wounds one of the giants, and the duel is over because
the one who's poisoned loses.
The one that's poisoned loses the duel, but he doesn't die. But Usopp sees this, and him and Luffy share this I don't want to say naive, but it's a really chivalrous or
they want a fair fight.
Real old-fashioned honor. Usopp's a coward, but he has this it's a lot of shit, but the really small core of it is steel. So he's incredibly soft and malleable, but once you get to that core of I cannot cross this line, I will I
will fight to the death.
Yeah.
And he has that line.
which you'll see later on. But so it's this. Like Mr. 3 is the main villain of this arc, in that he's the toughest guy. But
Tough is a relative term, but yeah.
well, he almost wins.
He almost wins, but it's not through, beat him up. It's through skill and through trap and finesse.
Yep. And the next group of guys you're introduced to at the end of Baroque Works is one of my favorite characters, which is... Was it Mr. 2?
Oh, it's Mr. 2.
Mr. 2 is, like...
You're Okame.
He is the gayest character in all, like ever. I mean...
He is so gay that he walks around in a tutu...
With a swan on it.
With a swan on it, and tights and a leotard.
Yep. And
makeup. He is so overtly gay, which is perfectly fine. It's just humorous. But he's got probably the most...
He refers to himself as a queer about how many times?
Oh my god, every single time he speaks.
Yeah.
But what's kind of fun about Mr. 2 is you see him fight, and he's rather good.
Oh, yeah.
And you assume that that's his power, is that he's, super strong or malleable or fast.
No, he can become anybody.
He's just legitimately that strong as a person.
Like, he slaps his face, and he changes his face to people that he's seen or touched.
And I believe he has a memory of 7.
So I think he has a bigger memory than that, but...
No, it's like 7 or 9, because they make a point that one of the strategies for beating him is to get him to touch more people so he forgets their faces.
Okay.
Because he hops up on crew with them while they're leaving
Little
Garden, I believe, right?
Sometime before...
it's before Drum Island.
Before Drum Island.
Or after, one of the two.
Or during. They meet Mr. 2, and...
They don't know it.
They don't know it, but...
And he doesn't know it either. Like, he doesn't know them.
Well, Evie knows something, though.
Evie does, but it's a one-way knowledge.
One-way knowledge, but... it's hilarious because he says out loud, or they all agree, we're all friends here.
Yeah. So
he's friends with them going into the final arc, which pays off.
At the end, yeah.
But because he ends up facing Sanji and Alabaster, but we'll get to that later. So Drum Island.
Yeah.
Is Chopper's story the most heartbreaking, or at least the most feel-inducing one?
It's close
because
it's between him and Nami probably.
Nami has that's
a heart wrencher.
That's a heart wrencher, but there's something
there's something naive about Chopper that makes his kind of pull the heartstrings.
No,
too.
you know what it is? It was in more than one episode where because there was more than one episode dedicated to Chopper's origin. I know that.
Yeah.
But because Chopper was raised by a doctor.
Well.
Wow.
He was raised by a kook who called himself a doctor.
His father figure was a reformed thief.
Yes.
He was a thief.
It should also probably be noted that Chopper is a reindeer who ate the human fruit.
Yes.
Not the other way around. Initially, they just assume it's a human that ate the reindeer fruit.
Yeah.
No, this is the reindeer that ate the human fruit.
This is the one
which means there's probably a reindeer fruit out there somewhere.
Well,
we're waiting for his foil to pop up.
Well, there's. Did they say how many devil fruits there are? Because
I don't remember them ever giving it a cap. Because why would you put a max on your creative license?
Well, the way devil fruits work is you eat one, you get the powers of the devil fruit, but you can't swim anymore.
Yeah, for whatever reason, you just no longer float.
So, that's one of those things that maybe they'll explain it, maybe they won't.
Oh, and seawater is almost always your weakness.
The one thing that they do say is, if whoever dies that ate the fruit goes back into the wild. It just appears randomly.
It reappears or regrows somewhere.
Yeah. So,
and you can only eat one.
Chopper ate the human fruit, and he was running around... not knowing how to deal with things, because he was feral.
Yeah.
He was just
a
regular
reindeer that just became human sentient.
And he had the ability to switch between 3 forms.
Yeah.
There's Big Chopper, which is the most human.
Yep.
There's the most reindeer form, and then there's his usual form, which is
half and half, little kid style.
Yeah, the little kid chibi style. like his regular style.
Yeah.
Then, because once you're introduced to Correa.
I think that's her name.
Yeah, that's probably her name.
The female doctor, right?
I'm sure someone will correct us if we're
Oh,
wrong.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments.
So anyway,
I look forward to reading them.
So Correa is the first one that they meet in Drum Island. The Straw Hats meet because Nami is sick going into Drum Island,
and that's the reason they're looking for a doctor.
Well, I think they happen to be going to Drum Island, and the fact that they have doctors is the best, part of it.
Yeah, that's why they go onto the island instead of waiting in the ship.
But there's a problem in that there is a control on the number of doctors in the island. Like the returned king comes back after. Now they don't say it by name, but it's a pirate crew came through and tore up the entire island. And the king got the boot from the island. So, because it was the Blackbeard's crew.
Was it Blackbeard's?
Yeah, it was Blackbeard.
All right.
You know why it was Blackbeard?
No.
Because
With Grace.
And wait, did Ace get introduced in Drum Island or
No, he's not until Alabaster.
No, I'm introduced because someone left Luffy a note somewhere in, I think, Drum Island.
I don't think so. I think they don't meet Ace until they actually get to Alabaster.
Well, anyway, Ace comes up in this one, and we'll get to him with Alabaster for sure. So, the crew meets Chopper, and I think Luffy says, without question, be a part of my crew, because he always, if you're interesting or just different,
he wants you.
Luffy wants you on the crew,
and he won't give up until you say yes. You might as well just say yes.
And Chopper is shy as hell, so.
But if you give him a compliment, he'll do whatever you want.
Nami goes, is brought to Correa, and that this is one of those showcase how dedicated Luffy is.
Yeah.
He climbs up with Nami on his back up the mountain, and it makes it look like he almost kills himself doing it.
He does almost kill himself doing it.
I think he is in worse condition than she is.
Yeah, but once you're on his team, he won't let you down.
Nope. Loyalty. So they start explaining Chopper's origin to Nami and Luffy, I think, or to somebody. Chopper was raised by a doctor.
Probably to Nami, because Luffy doesn't have the attention span.
Well, it could have been the other guy, in the other part of the island, talking to Zoro and Sanji.
Could have been.
Well, Zoro was out of the equation for a while because
he goes wandering. He does that all over.
Well, no, not even wandering. He was guarding the ship. He was training, guarding the ship. It's a now. Just so you all know, this is a winter island in the Grand Line. There are certain seasons that never change.
And there are others that change daily.
So they're on a winter island. So it is constantly winter on this island. It is cold. And Zoro is in pants, no shirt, sword training in the water. He says out loud, "I'm going to work on my cold training so that I can resist temperatures below freezing." And I don't think that works out too well for him. I don't think he's going to train his way through freezing his balls off.
He's probably sterile by now anyway, but...
Well, anyway, so... Chopper was taught, not belief in yourself, but belief in healing. You have to heal a person's, soul to truly do it.
Yep.
And, the old man, forget his name, but, if the doctor who raised him is his father, his mother is definitely Correa, who, beats it into him.
Yeah.
Like how to be a real doctor because
she actually teaches him.
She knows everything. She has forgotten more about medicine than anyone knows.
Yeah.
So they're explaining like to the Straw Hats what happened with Chopper, and when the old king was in power, he wanted all the doctors for himself in the country, and he said that he was sick so that the one doctor would come running, and he did. Now, before that, and this is more important, Chopper realizes that the old man is sick, so he goes into the wilderness to find a mushroom that he saw in a textbook.
Yep, try to heal him.
And like he thought that if he had this mushroom, the old man would live. And the old man, when he sees the mushroom, he thanks Chopper a lot. He's grateful. He's with tears in his eyes, grateful, and he patches up Chopper, and then he goes out to the prince. And between that and what happens afterwards, Correa tells Chopper, that you idiot, that mushroom is poisonous. Like, that'll kill him. And they're both crying. Like, Correa has, like, a single tear going down her, because, like, she thought the old man was a kook, but, he just had that, that ability to, like, he was such a genuine person.
Yeah.
That...
And it also goes back to Chopper's naivety. I mean, Chopper effectively...
He just didn't know.
He didn't know, and he risked his life to try and do that.
Yep.
You know, and so it goes back to that whole concept of being naive, of not really knowing. He saw it in the book, but he didn't realize it was, something to watch out for, not something to consume.
Yeah, and
so that's part of what makes it sad, is that he effectively poisons his father.
Yeah, but there's that. But I think the father knew going into it that it was a trap, but he wasn't going to take the chance that it wasn't a trap because he believed in healing, and
even if his healing was BS.
He has I'm not everyone has there's a lot of Jolly Roger flags in the show.
His has the cherry blossoms. Right?
His has the cherry blossoms. That's the only one of the pirate flags that I would get a tattoo of. Like if I were to get a fan tattoo of this show, because his is about
purity and healing. Yeah.
Well, not even healing, just that belief in treating the soul.
Yeah.
And as he's dying or whatever, he set up a medicine that he believed that would cure the island. So fast forward to the present day, the king that got ousted is coming back, and he ate was it the eat or the chop fruit?
I think it was the eat.
Well, whatever it was, whatever he eats, he can turn into. If he eats weapons, he can.
He turns into those weapons.
He can have them on his body.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's this big fight where he beats up everybody, and he goes up to the castle that was his, and he wants the armory that is in there.
Yep.
So of course he runs into Luffy, who
beats the piss out of him.
Yeah, beats him up. It was a good fight too.
Well, you kind of learn what Luffy's major weakness is. I mean, you already know what his weakness is, but you learn that it's pretty bad. Is that he can't deal with sharp items.
Nope.
You can stick a cannonball at him and he'll just bounce it off, but
yeah, you
give him a pin and he's in trouble.
He can be cut. So when Drum Island arc ends, the thing the doctor built that was supposed to cure everyone, they fire that off, and it's the cherry blossoms. I was going to say Sakura there.
Yeah.
Bailed on that one. So They fire off into the air a cannon that has all the cherry blossoms in it, and I don't know. I think it works. I mean, in the anime they replay like some of the moments leading up to it just to remind you why it's important.
Yeah.
And it works. Like so Chopper wants to join the crew, but not at first.
He also doesn't want to leave the island.
He doesn't want to leave the island, so he tells the doctor, like, I'm thinking about leaving. Is like, and she says, "You're not leaving," and starts throwing battle axes at him. Like everything that's in the armory just starts throwing at him. So he runs away from her, and
that's how he joins.
And joins. So.
You pick up Chopper, which is a great thing because the crew really does get hurt quite a bit. They need a doctor. Kind of like they need a cook. They eat too much.
Well, part of it is like Luffy says he wants things for the crew, and generally in the show they'll tell you what's coming. Like you just gotta pay attention. Like Luffy, the first thing he wants is a singer. He wants a musician. Mm-hmm. And everyone says, no, we're not getting a musician. We need a doctor. We need a shipwright. We need...
all these other things.
We need all these...
eventually you're going to get a singer.
So that lets you know that you're going to get something eventually.
Yeah. And that's really what Oda's really an amazing master of. And one of the things that makes me in awe of his stuff so much is there are things that he foreshadows, 2, 3, 4, 500 chapters in advance. And there are other things that you find out about, that same number of chapters later that harken back memories, and you're just in absolute awe.
Yep.
I mean, the musician, of course, being one of them, but he's a bit further ahead than we're going to go today.
Yeah, that he's not even worth bringing up right now because that's...
So that's Drum Island. You've now gone... And so it's kind of interesting, and I can see where Matt's coming with it. This does take a long time. Because you started with, yay, we're in the Grand Line. You've gone through 3 or 4 islands already. You've gone through Whiskey Peak. You've gone through Little Garden. You've gone through Drum. You've done a lot of stuff. You've picked up Chopper. You've met Baroque Works. You've met a princess. I believe by now you know who Mr. Zero is. Mm-hmm. If not, you definitely find out in Alabaster.
So Alabaster is...
And I believe this is also where you meet Ace.
Well...
At the port town.
You meet Ace, but...
One of my favorite all-time characters of this entire series.
Ace is cool. Like, Ace is Luffy's fucking idiot. So Luffy's brother, and they're not brothers. They're
friends.
If you're watching the show, like, if you really want to get drunk while you're doing it, if you're on a binge, every time they show the fucking scene where they drink cups of sake together.
Oh my god.
Like, take a drink.
If you're on a binge watch, you'll be so clobbered you won't remember what the hell happened.
Like the One Piece drinking game is every time Zoro gets lost, every time Sanji has heart eyes for a pretty girl.
Well, on that one you might as well just give up because you're going to be in the hospital.
Well, that you divide it up so that the teams can see.
I know. There's a couple of good ones. Every time Chopper responds to a compliment,
he does that like thing where he puts his hooves together
and he tells you that it doesn't get you anywhere with him, and of course it does.
Meanwhile, like you definitely tell that like he's faking it.
Yeah.
So.
But you get to this port, and it's actually kind of funny. I personally love the dugongs, and I know that's not what their names are.
Yeah.
But they're the frickin' Pokemon. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
The fighting dugongs, of course, decide to follow Luffy. But you get into this port town, and Luffy goes into this bar just to, like, I don't even remember why. I think he either overhears a voice, or he just goes in for information or for water, and you get to meet Ace for the first time.
Yep.
And Ace is like this cool older brother figure for Luffy, and you kind of always just assumed, based on how selfish he was and how he acted, that Luffy was an only child. And you're kind of half right, because in theory he is an only child, at least so we think at this point.
As far as we know.
But it turns out he had an older brother, if not by blood, at least by, familial...
They were raised together.
They were raised together, and that's a whole other thing you don't find out about for a long time. But, he goes in, and all of a sudden you've got Luffy who's been, upping his badassery game, beating up people and saving towns, and this dude just basically pats him on the head. And, he's not starstruck because he knows him.
Well, I think Luffy,
says equivocally,
really early on that he couldn't beat up Ace even after...
Yeah, never, ever once won a fight against Ace.
Even after Luffy ate the gum fruit...
he still couldn't beat him.
Luffy couldn't beat him before Ace had the flame fruit.
Yeah, before Ace had the flame fruit, but after Luffy had the gum no fruit.
So
he still lost all the time.
So just to be clear...
Ace just is much stronger than him.
So...
You're still recording, right?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Anyway,
okay.
So... Ace is with them for a small portion of the Alabaster Arc.
Yeah, before he leaves.
And
at this point, you don't even know what crew he's on.
You don't know what crew he's on. You know that he's a part of a crew and that he's looking for someone that killed a member of the crew that he's on. He's looking for a traitor. So, either during Drum Island or when you first meet Ace, you realize that it was the crew that he's looking for that tore up the kingdom.
Yeah, so, I think this is at some point in the middle of there. You also meet Blackbeard, don't you?
No, you meet.
Isn't that when you beat up the Springy guy?
No, you meat Blackbeard.
Or is that afterwards when you're going to Sky Island?
Well, it's the Sky Island arc because you meet Blackbeard.
At the island where you're learning about. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
At the
island where you learn about
the mystery,
and about the dude who's been shamed in history. So okay.
Yep.
My apologies. I'm a little ahead of where I should be.
Nolan.
Yeah, Nolan. That's his name.
I forget his last name, but it was Nolan of the North.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. There's
So he leaves.
There's 3 parts to the Alabaster Arc itself.
Not to be confused with the saga.
Yeah. The arc, you get there, you're trying to get Vivi from the boat to the rebels.
And it's also important to note, and I apologize to interrupt a little bit, that in between when you leave Drum Island and when you get to Alabasta, now that I remember, is when Mr. 2 becomes a friend of the crew's.
Yep.
And they learned about his ability to become anybody.
Yeah, he was showing it off.
He was showing it off because he didn't know that they were enemies, and with the exception of Vivi, who couldn't tell anybody,
yep,
no one knew that he was really an enemy. And he picks up the faces of every crew member.
Yep.
So he's capable, in theory, if he changes his clothes and uses his power, of perfectly impersonating, down to the T of how a body is built,
yep,
every single crew member in the crew.
Yep.
Which becomes a bit of a problem, because obviously, if he remembers to take off the tutu and the tights,
yep,
you could be talking to Zoro, and you could actually be talking to Mr. 2. And aside from the fact that he has extreme physical prowess in Kung Fu, and he has a better name for it that's themed to his character.
I'm sure.
I can't remember. I think it's Okami Fu.
It was something with dance.
Yeah.
I don't think he calls it gay fu at any time, but it's.
But in any event,
he's obsessed with things that are beautiful.
Yes.
So there's that, and he is one of the best parts about One Piece.
Oh yeah, he's great,
and you'll see him in another arc eventually.
Long down the way.
But
the big point on this is that they have to come up with a way of figuring out
if they run into him.
If they run into him, how do they tell if he's them or not?
So the first thing you see is everyone takes a bandage and wraps it around their arm.
And that's all you see until the very end of the arc, so we shouldn't spoil it just yet.
Yeah, thank you for spoiling the fact that there's a spoiler. Okay, but anyway, so
better than telling what the spoiler is.
So the first part of the arc, I feel like there's a filler arc somewhere in between the first parts of the Alabaster arc. There's a couple of episodes where.
Well, I'm going off of manga knowledge, not off of the episodes. But
well, I'm more familiar with the show than I am the books, but there
probably is. There's filler everywhere. There's a frickin' samurai filler somewhere in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
That does not exist in the manga.
Well, I'm not even going to discuss that.
With no surprise to anyone listening to this, I'm sure.
So, this is the it's in this part. I think that we're made aware of poneglyphs.
Yes, because Alabasta has one, but it's not again until the rather end.
Well, and
it's sort of where you also learn about Nicaragua a little bit being the demon child.
Well, I'm trying to remember. Was that in?
It's hinted at and talked a little bit about here. It goes into much more detail.
Is that in Water 7?
Well, so like when CP9 takes her, obviously that's when you really find out about.
Okay, so like this is the arc.
But this is the arc where they start giving you tidbits that there's going to be something.
Okay, so there's a one character in Alabaster that shows up from Logtown. Captain Smoker is in this arc.
He's a pain in the ass for a while.
Well, he's so by the books and like
for now, he eventually loosens up a little.
Well,
but yeah, no, his goal is to simply catch Luffy, at least from the get-go, until he learns what's going on.
So he's trying to catch Luffy.
Then he wants to catch Luffy and stop what's going on.
Well, he runs into Ace and he realizes like
can't beat him.
Well, no, it's not that he can't beat him. It's just that like
no, he tries. He fails.
Well, no, it's too even because like between the smoke and the fire, it doesn't work. Like they can't do damage to each other.
Yeah, that's because of course hockey doesn't exist yet.
They haven't brought it into it, but
that's what I'm saying.
So
if they did, Smoker would lose hard.
Wow.
I'm sorry. A pirate that survives the second half of the Grand Line with Whitebeard beats a captain who barely knows Logtown.
Up to debate.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that after the 2 years...
Because don't forget,
Smoker
knows that he can't go up against like other Logia types, so he has the cane. That's a
has the sea stone on it.
A sea stone, which is a way
Karoseki, I think they call it.
Which is like a poor man's hockey. So
yeah.
Anyway, so Smoker is involved.
It's not a cane, it's a jite.
Whatever. It's a fucking stick he beats people with.
Yeah, it's called the jite. Anyway.
So Smoker is involved.
And the word.
All right, now Baroque Works has his master plan. They want a kingdom for themselves.
Yep.
So they're setting their sights on Alabaster, and
because it's weakened.
The way that they've done it is Alabaster is a desert nation. And what they do is they screw with the rain. There's this powder where if you burn it, it takes away the moisture from everywhere else and causes it to condense over where you burned it.
And it was come up with a long time ago. I think it was one of Vegapunk's inventions, and I think this is where he's introduced.
I don't know if Vegapunk is introduced in this one or if he's introduced with...
It's definitely one of his. I'm not sure where they actually tell you. But essentially there's this amazing scientist that works for the world government named Vegapunk. And he came up with this powder. It was actually banned within the world because it was too nasty. You could effectively drought out an entire nation using it.
So what Crocodile did, and...
Crocodile, of course, for those who don't know, is Mr. Zero, the top of Baroque Works.
Well, you're kind of introduced to him really hard during the Little Garden arc when Sanji gets on the phone with him.
Yeah.
So Sanji...
But the characters don't know it yet, though. Just he does.
So, by the way, during the Giant arc, towards the end, when they were supposed to be having a conversation with Mr. 3, Sanji impersonated Mr. 3 and talked to Crocodile himself.
Yeah.
But
no one really knows that except the reader.
Well,
I don't think Sanji knows.
Well, no, I think he knew, but I don't think he brought it up. So, Crocodile has a casino in Alabaster, and he has a lot of rain coming down. It's the only spot in... And he's loved by the people because he's ingratiated himself with the people. He
gives them the water. Yep.
Gives them water, gives them gambling, gives them, like something to believe in.
Yep.
And...
He's slowly taking over the actual country.
I forget how it goes exactly, because everyone knows he's a warlord.
Yeah, but that's common knowledge.
So...
And for those who... And I guess we should also define a warlord. The Shichibukai, or the warlord, are essentially pirates. I believe there's 7 of them.
Yep.
That are sanctioned to be pirates by the world government. The whole idea is that if the world government has the 7 baddest pirates that they can find working for them, they can use them as a force be reckoned with, to defend.
They want to
whatever it is
control
they
the
want.
crime in the world.
Yeah, it essentially gives them the ability to have a hand in all of the underhanded dealings that occur.
Yep.
And it doesn't really work all that well for the government most of the time.
It doesn't work out for the people. It works out for the government. So
it doesn't really work out for either of them all that well. Usually the pirates just win. Because, well, they're pirates, right?
Yep. So, at this point, I think Evie was looking for the rebels to tell the rebels that it's all a setup by Crocodile.
And that she's back, yeah.
And that she's back. This fails, so
miserably.
They go to the Capitol building, which I think they traveled far inwards into the desert, and like they went in the wrong direction.
Yeah, they must have let Zorro lead.
And, no, not even that. Like they listened to the information. Meanwhile,
I was kidding.
No, there was one. Like at the very start of this, you knew they were going in the wrong direction because you saw the Luffy end up with the rebels. I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, what's interesting is that before they get to here, if they didn't already know they were dealing with Crocodile, they find out pretty hard. Because the crew comes into contact with their very first of its kind. They lose. They get into a physical confrontation with Crocodile, where they learn that what he does is he absorbs the moisture in your body.
And he's made of sand.
And he's made of sand, so you can't hurt him. He's a Logia type.
So he's a sand guy in the fucking desert, and you're trying to beat him.
And in the past, when they came into contact with a Logia type like Smoker, they had a very, very effective strategy. Run the hell away.
Yeah, because they didn't have the ability to deal with them.
So now they're dealing with a Logia type who they don't know how to deal with, but they can't run away. They have to hurt. They have to find a way to beat him. And in the first particular battle, Crocodile pulls the usual arrogant, enemy. He lets them live, or he kills them to near death and assumes that the environment will take them out. And of course, in true superhero fashion, they're saved.
Well,
somewhat.
Crocodile is the first villain, and because he's the first
he's the
warlord,
first powerful villain.
Like he's the first guy that beats Luffy on screen.
And not only that, it's not like he just beats Luffy. He takes down Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy simultaneously when they're giving him everything they have, and makes it look like they're children.
Yep.
And so you get the sense that, well, shit, not only can we lose, we just did.
So, so he goes off, and he's going to start the final phase of his plan.
Having won and defended his title.
Yep. He does this James Bond thing where he's going to let the sharks kill the Straw Hats. And
of
Smoker,
course, that doesn't work out well.
No.
Just like in James Bond, actually.
So,
he's a really cool, arrogant fuck.
Well, what saves them is no, it's not what saves them. Or no, yes, Mr. 3.
Mind.
Mr. 3 saves them.
Yeah, he decides he doesn't want to deal with Crocodile anymore.
Well, halfway through the Alabaster Arc, Crocodile tries to kill him, or it looks like it kills him, but he manages to make a
candle clone.
A candle? No, not even a candle clone. Like the shark that the crocodile that eats him. It's not a shark. It's crocodiles.
Right.
The crocodile that eats him.
Because it's crocodile.
Like
yeah.
he puts a wax ball over his body, so it's like a shield.
Yeah.
And he survives that way.
Yeah.
So
the powerful coward. I love it.
So in order for him to escape and help the Straw Hats escape, they make a key out of wax and they escape that way.
Yeah.
So I think this is the point where Luffy goes off, faces Crocodile, and gets stabbed.
Yeah. Not only did he decide that because he lost last time, he should win this time, Luffy goes up to beat up Crocodile again, still not knowing what his weakness is, although really you should piece it together. It's a freaking, devil fruit. And this time not only does he lose, but Crocodile's getting a little tired of this individual who's not only mucked up his plans a bit, but actually survived what should have killed him. And he sticks his hook through his stomach.
Yep.
Dealing what should have been a fairly fatal wound. We know that Luffy is very vulnerable to sharp things, and his hook has quite the point. Unfortunately for Crocodile, unfortunately for Luffy, this act is what tells Luffy what his weakness is.
Yep.
Crocodile, like all devil fruit users, of course, would be weak to the water, but specifically, or weak to seawater rather, but specifically here, any liquid will turn his sand, as it does with normal sand, from loose to hard.
Yep.
And so what happens is Luffy's blood essentially pours all over his hook because he's been stabbed in the stomach, a very unpleasant place to be hit. And he's able to actually get away because he's able to actually hurt him. He grabs at the area, not knowing it's hardened, just to try and pull the hook out of his stomach.
Who was it that saved Luffy because he was left for dead?
I don't remember.
Well, anyway, Luffy survives.
Sand Pirates. Of course he survives. But essentially he grabs Crocodile's arm and squeezes it, not knowing that he's weakened, but just because that's a natural reaction when someone stabs you in the stomach.
Yep.
And not at the time, but later on looks back at that moment and realizes, wait a minute, I hurt him. He grimaced.
Yep.
He grunted. He has a weakness, and and he figures out that it's water. Which, of course, leads to a very humorous third battle where he's essentially got a balloon of water.
Well, no, yeah. Like, what
or
did
a
he do?
jetpack or something.
He has a water tank on his back where...
And he's just trying to spray Crocodile with it.
Like, he drinks the water, then he sprays it out of his mouth, I think.
Yeah.
And then
he's got, like, a shooter.
So that's how he fights Crocodile in the final battle.
It's not how he beats him in the final battle. That's how he tries to fight him. It doesn't work.
I'm trying to remember that. How does that go? Do you remember?
So the final battle, essentially what happens is Luffy can't get a hand up on Crocodile. He has the water gun, and of course, Crocodile's not an idiot. He knows his weakness. He plans around it. That's why he went after a desert kingdom. He dodges the water, breaks the tank, and beats Luffy literally to a pulp. The problem is he beats Luffy to a literal bloody pulp. Mm-hmm. And so in the final battle, it's not that he's smart enough to bring water with him. It's that his hands are covered in blood. And literally his entire body are just wet and dripping with his blood. Mm-hmm. And so when he punches Crocodile, there's so much... The point is that he's so battered and beaten even though he refuses to give up.
Even though I hate this arc, I will say this, that is one of the most satisfying conclusions.
Yes.
To a final boss battle.
Yeah, Luffy is so badly beaten to a bloody pulp. There's so much blood on his hands, and it's not like it's someone else's. It's his.
Yep.
That when he punches Crocodile, when he goes to attack him, his attacks are effective because there's so much liquid that any part that he hits on Crocodile becomes hardened. And so that's how he eventually beats him, also revealing the poneglyph for Nika Robin.
Well, all right. So that boss battle takes place underneath the...
It's in the ancient ruins, I believe.
Ancient ruins underneath the castle.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile...
And of course, with all Straw Hat plots, they're all in separate directions doing different things.
So
they're never in one fucking group.
My favorite fight of the bunch is... Alright, so...
There's a couple of good
There's
fights.
the remaining Baroque Works members.
Yeah.
And then, it's...
There are really two memorable fights.
It's Usopp and Chopper versus Badger Woman and Baseball Guy.
Yeah. And then there's Sanji versus Mr. 2.
Mr. 2.
And who does Zoro fight? I don't remember.
He fought
was he
Mr.
the Iron
1,
dude?
which was the Cut Fruit guy.
Yeah. Was it Cut or was he just Iron?
No, I think it was Iron because...
I think Cut's the giraffe dude later on.
No, Cut is Buggy.
No, he's the Bara no Mi.
Which is?
Peace. Let's think it's Peace.
Or was it Chop?
I don't know. So as you might tell, the names of the Devil Fruit are...
There's a bunch of overlapping powers.
Well, they're not overlapping powers, but they're overlapping names. They're very different powers. One guy turns into iron, one guy cuts anything, one guy chops himself into pieces. But because they're all in Japanese, the translations are a little funky.
Well, this is the first time that Zoro uses haki.
Yeah, he doesn't know it, though.
He doesn't know it, but he focuses all of his energy into his blade to cut a man that can't be cut.
And I think the guy wasn't... I don't think he was... Yeah, he was iron, because Diamond is on one of the other crews.
No, so it's Iron.
It's Iron.
So...
So essentially this dude who is... Zoro, of course, is a master swordsman, albeit, not on Hawkeye's level, but he's a master swordsman, and this guy is also a pretty good swordsman. But on top of that, his entire body is
He's a human swordsman.
He's a human sword that also is a swordsman.
Yeah.
And so the problem that Zoro has is he's able to outmaneuver him a few times, but unfortunately his sword can't cut him because his body is made of the same material as the swords.
Yeah.
And so during this, he actually is able to be cornered and nearly dies. And when up to the brink of his ability to think, he essentially focuses his energy, much like Matt said, into his blade, and you see like a sheen, almost a blackened sheen.
Yep.
Which is the beginning of a power you don't learn about for many chapters. It's not yet named.
So Zoro was the first one to use it then.
I think so. And actually, I don't think this is the first time he used it either. I think the first time he used it was when he was fighting on Whiskey Peak when he was there were rocks falling and he dodges them automatically.
Nah, I think that was just like his skills. But
It's hinted at that it's hockey, observational,
okay.
because his eyes are closed when he does it.
So,
But Zoro's developing these powers, and because he develops this ability, albeit he can't control it and he can't reproduce it, for a brief moment he is able to cut something that is uncuttable.
So
it cuts the guy in half and scares the poop out of the guy before he passes out.
I'm gonna hold off on describing Chopper and Usopp's fight and go to Sanji versus Mr. 2.
Go for it.
Mr. 2 has this thing where he changes into Nami right before Sanji's about to kick him. So it's very hilarious.
I love Sanji's character flaws. They play on it so hard.
But the Sanji wins after he was close. Like he was as good as Mr. 2 in terms of combat.
Close, yeah.
They were evenly matched.
Yeah.
Like it was like dirty tricks that won. Like they actually fought it out.
They both were playing dirty tricks, and Sanji won in the end.
Because Sanji wins by getting him to touch his face when he's not from going from Nami to like regular
Something
himself,
like that, yeah.
And like he unleashes like one of the best kicks he up to date. I think he did like a triple tornado kick or something like that.
Something like that. I don't think this is. I don't think he has Diablo Jamble yet.
Nah, that one comes.
That doesn't come out until CP9.
Yeah, that yeah. So.
But yeah, he hits him hard, and so I'm going to interject, and then I'll let you finish. Just the one thing with Mr. 2 that's fun is, as we've noted a few times, he turns into other people's faces, and this is where you find out their plan for figuring out who's who.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, the Tutu should have been the real, hint that it wasn't Nami when Sanji saw him, but of course, that's not how this manga works.
Well, 2 was a very important part of the plan because what 2's role in the whole arc was he was going to turn into the leaders of the kingdom and just start shit with the other sides. He goes over to the rebels, shoots a kid, like flat out a kid not dies. I think the kid lives, but
yeah, no one dies in One Piece. Very few people die in One Piece. Other than
I'm not going there, but like
very few people die in One Piece.
So
at least in one chapter.
Like it has like that anime technique where it's like unless
you don't see things sometimes.
Unless you see them dead and buried, they're not dead.
Yeah.
Because you never know who will come back.
You never know what devil fruit may resurrect them or pull them around or do whatever.
So then it's Nami versus I'm trying to remember what her power was.
Maybe that was Gravity Girl?
I don't think it was Gravity. I think Gravity Girl was the girl that had the umbrella, remember?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember Nami's battle. Honestly speaking, like, not all the battles other than Crocodile are secondary. They're necessary for character development.
Well, Nami has this thing where she wanted to prove that she was a member of the crew that she could handle herself.
Yes.
Because
she always been protected.
She's on the weaker side of the combat.
She and Usopp are the bottom tier.
I would put Usopp above her because Usopp, well, she's like with there's certain members of the crew that are cowards, and
but sometimes the cowards are still strong.
Oh yeah, Usopp is one of the most hardcore characters. I would
argue that Usopp might be the strongest character on the show, only because his sniping skills, especially once he's unlocked his true powers, which are only hinted at very, very, very late into the manga, even by current standards right now, and we're still on chapter like 12 or 1300.
Yeah.
He can literally nail you with a bomb or a bullet from across an entire island as long as he has a vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
In Dungeons & Dragons, there's a monster called Attila the Hun that can hit you as long as he can see the moon. I suspect that Usopp will gain his own version of that power eventually.
Well,
where as long as there's light and you're outside, he can shoot you.
I'm trying to. I think I think there's a bunch of characters that haven't developed hockey yet, but of the...
He's developed it very recently, but not at this arc by any means, not even close.
He gets it up against Doflamingo, so...
Yeah, and that's so far...
That's like 5 or 6 arcs away.
That's like 500 or 600 chapters away minimum.
Easily.
Actually, closer to 1,000.
So, I think... Alright, so anyway, Nami has a very basic version of a climate stick.
Yeah, she has essentially a staff that controls weather.
Yep. But she doesn't have that until... I'm trying to... Because...
She doesn't have it at this point.
Like
that doesn't happen until Sky Island.
At least Sky Island.
Sky Island is where she learns about the techniques.
So, what Nami has is...
She has brains and a staff.
All of Nami's weapons come from Usopp.
Yeah.
So
Usopp's the engineer.
Well, not even that. He's the sniper, but he has Usopp Works, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because...
He's a tinkerer. Well, we'll put it that way.
Well, whatever you see him develop, he uses. Like, earlier in the arc...
Oh, he's smart as hell, but he's a tinkerer.
He uses...
He makes shit.
Like, he makes Tabasco balls for his slingshot.
Yep.
And you actually see him use it very effectively on Little Garden, where he gets... The guy that can turn anything into a bomb, he shoots him square in the mouth. Because the guy can eat bullets.
Yeah.
Remember?
So good luck eating that.
So he hits him with the Tabasco bomb.
Yeah, I remember.
So
Usopp's a creative little
that's how
bastard.
he won.
Yeah. And the thing about Usopp is he'll take things that seem like they're absolutely ridiculous, like a Tabasco bullet, and they'll come in clutch.
All right, I just remembered something. Is the woman that Nami faces have, like, claws?
I don't remember.
All right, anyway, so Nami wins with one of Usopp's inventions, and there's a lot of hilarity leading up to it because Nami doesn't know how to use the invention.
Yeah, he gave it to her, but he never showed her how it worked.
Well, I don't think she listened to him.
One of the two.
So
she just wanted a weapon. She didn't want to know how to use it.
The best fight other than Luffy versus Crocodile is Chopper and Usopp versus Baseball Guy and
Badger Woman.
Yeah. Because
that was fun.
Usopp gets knocked the fuck around, and Chopper gets it bad too. And
yeah, but the thing about Usopp is it develops his character from the I'm a coward, but once I start, I won't back down.
Well, not even that. It just shows that Usopp.
Is he Suga King at this point, or is he still Usopp?
No, he's not. He's not.
Suga King is until CP9, right?
Well, after CP9, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, not even well after CP9. It's during the arc.
Because I thought that was where he tried to leave the crew.
Yeah. So, Usopp is a very cowardly person, but he's a very clever person, and I think, like the one thing that that's going to end the chapter is when the villains go on a tirade and just talk shit about either the Straw Hats crew, or if they do an unforgivable character flaw in front of Usopp or Luffy or Zoro,
you don't mess with their friends.
Usopp, I don't think he was standing when he did it.
I think he fell over directly afterwards. He's one of those characters he'll stay up, but the second the fight is over, down. God.
Usopp is Luffy has one of the best lines about Usopp in a later arc. It's when it's hopeless, a hopeless situation, and then they say to Luffy, "Wait, who's on it? Usopp's on it? Oh, I'm not worried." So
he won't fail them.
So Usopp has to smart his way through a fight where he's outmatched with him and Chopper.
Yeah.
And
doesn't he eventually become essentially a pitcher or a batter or something?
Well, the guy that they're fighting is the batter.
Okay.
And Badger Girl goes underneath the ground, and then Batter Guy
hits them with
hits
right?
exploding baseballs at him, and so Usopp, who has been blown to hell about 2 or 3 times, hit with a bat. Like, the funniest part is
He's
afterwards.
been hurt pretty bad, yeah.
So he gets Badger Girl to come up through a hole after Batter Guy's been blinded. So Batter Guy takes out Badger Girl.
He uses their powers against them.
And then, like, the ball was right there, so that explodes, takes out Batter Guy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Usopp is standing there looking cool, falls over, and Chopper just goes to work, like,
healing him.
on just giving him, like, Chopper's like, oh shit, he's dead.
he's dead on his damn feet.
So,
well, let's make sure he doesn't die.
Like, Chopper just, like, as a doctor, just starts going to work, and you just see, like, afterwards, like, you don't see Usopp, you see a mummy walking around, like, he's just walking bandages.
Just game over.
Like, it's like Usopp, his nose is crooked, like, bent all over the place, and, like, he fixes that with a...
I think he just, like, grabs it.
So, like, there's, like, when Usopp is about to win a fight, that is the coolest you'll ever see in a character.
Yeah, and it's always something creative. It's never, like, straight up, I can outmatch you.
Yep.
He's always the underdog. And, I mean, and that's a common theme with the Straw Hats, because everybody loves to root for an underdog, but you know when you walk into a battle that if Zoro's losing, it's because he hasn't pulled out whatever his trump is.
Yep.
Usopp doesn't usually have a trump. Usually whatever Usopp's trump is, he's already used it because he doesn't like to get hurt. And he has to figure out how to use his older items in some creative manner to win. And that's one of the reasons why he's a very lovable character.
So,
and the arc, of course, ends with the Poneglyph being revealed after Luffy finally knocks out Crocodile. I think the character that goes through the most growth that should really be mentioned is Smoker.
Smoker,
I'll let you take that away.
The moment that he arrives on Alabasta, I'm going to get the Straw Hats. Meanwhile, when he finds out what's going on with Crocodile, where Crocodile is trying to overthrow a country, he starts going after Crocodile, and he has to work with the Straw Hats to survive.
Not only that, not only does he have to work with them to survive, because he would never admit it, the bigger problem that he has is that Crocodile's a member of the Shichibukai, and we touched on this a little earlier, that they're like government-sanctioned pirates, because the government wants their hand in the underdealings, but because they're government-sanctioned, that means their piracy is legal.
Yep.
See, what Crocodile is doing is many, many things. It's terrible, it's horrible, it's underhanded, it's shitty. It's not illegal, it's not against the rules. Because as long as he's being a pirate, and he responds to the summits and whatever it is the world government wants him to do, his illegal actions are allowed.
Yep.
And so Smoker can't take him down, not because he can't beat him, although I'm not sure how that fight would go.
Well,
but because he can't actually stop it.
It would be a lot similar to what happened with Ace.
Maybe. I think that Smoke has a better way of going through Sand, and actually I think Sand has a better way of going through Smoke. I think it would go worse for him, because Smoke can't stop Sand. Smoke only stops fire because Smoke removes oxygen.
I'm trying to remember how it went, but anyway.
But so he has to. He
the
almost
one
has to
thing
aid.
the one thing that I will say about Smoker's character development, the realization that the Straw Hats fixed a problem for the world government and they will not get credit for it, and Smoker is the typical like don't give me a promotion guy.
Yeah, I want to do what I do.
So Smoker gets credit for the whole
Fixing
thing.
it, yeah.
And then, like, he still wants to catch the Straw Hats.
Yeah, he's still a one-trick pony.
But
I want you, I want you, I want you.
But it shows that he's, like, not the... until, like, more crew members come on the Straw Hats, he's the unofficial member, almost, in terms of... Well, like,
he's pushing it a little.
He's Doctor Doom to their Fantastic Four.
Yeah, he realizes that while they're pirates and he wants to stop them because that's his modus operandi, that there are pirates that are good or at least less bad than others. And he realizes, at least in Alabasta, that the Straw Hats they're a problem. They cause mayhem.
Yep.
But they cause mayhem, but they're kind of like chaotic good.
Yeah.
And so he starts to realize that there's a big difference between chaotic good and between lawful good. Because, unfortunately, as much as you might want to call him chaotic, Crocodile is very, very, very lawful to put in D&D terms. He follows a structure.
Yep.
He knows how the laws work, and he works within them. He's just evil. He wants to take it over, and he'll use whatever he can to do that. And he realizes that as much as he doesn't like the Straw Hats, that they're pirates and they want to steal things, and they want to pillage and plunder, that they don't do that to hurt people. And that they're a useful, if nothing else, they're at least a tool.
Well, if you notice that in 20 years, how many times have you actually seen the Straw Hats pillage and plunder, like, any island? It's usually they go after other pirates just by, like, not because they want to, it's just like they just keep doing it.
They want to pillage and plunder because they want to be pirates and free, but their morals get in the way.
They just want to go on an adventure.
They want to have a good time.
Yep. So, with, what was it?
This arc does a nice job of setting them up for the future as well, because as much as it answers a lot of questions, it also opens up a ton more, like what are these poneglyphs and who are these people?
Well, the thing...
What is the world government?
The moment that we're, like, formally introduced to the poneglyphs is the reason why Crocodile wanted Alabaster in particular, other than it was a sand country, like, it wasn't that. It's because they have this legendary weapon somewhere.
Right. Neptune, I think it was?
Yes.
Pluto.
No, Neptune is underneath the sea, and then Pluto is Alabaster. So
right, I'm sorry, you're right.
So he wants his.
I forgot about that.
He wants his weapon that's only underneath the kingdom, the capital, the castle, and he has Nico Robin with him. And the reason why he's working with her is that she's one of the few people that can read poneglyphs, and I think she wants something different than him. I think it's hinted at early on, but she's reading the poneglyph, and she tells him it's a history poneglyph, and then he realizes you're lying, so that ends the relationship. Then Luffy shows up and
beats him.
Awesome fight, and then, but as they're fighting, the whole place is starting to come down, and Nico Robin is like, I just want to die. Like, leave me here. I've done so many terrible things. And Luffy says, like...
No, you're part of my crew.
Well, not even that. He just says, like...
no.
Like, I'm saving you because I want to.
Yeah, I don't care what you like. And that's sort of his character.
Yep.
And Matt touches on a really good point that I forgot about. There are a number of these super weapons. And we haven't actually seen one in action yet. I use the word yet because I'm sure eventually there will be one. But they're effectively these amazing super weapons that occurred long, long in the past that have been forgotten. That I want to say there's 7 of them, but I'm not sure that that's
I don't know how many there are.
They tell us a number eventually, but I'm sure it's inaccurate.
Actually, I'm going to put it at 3 right now just because...
I think we know 3. I think there are a few more.
There's probably... Well, it has something to do with the 100 years missing from history.
And that's a plot point you don't learn about for a long time. At least until the saga after this one.
It's definitely coming up in the next... No, not even the next.
Not the next saga. I think it's the one after that.
It comes up.
They don't find out about that until they meet Frankie.
What are 7? No, it's once CP9 comes into play. That's
so maybe it is the next. I'm not sure.
No, the next is Sky Island.
Oh, that's right. But anyway, so like you find out that there are these super weapons in the world. And there are only a handful of people, I mean, we only know about Robin, but you have to assume there's more than one, that can read this ancient-ass language to use them. And whoever gets the first super weapon, it's a plot point that's been undiscussed for a while, but essentially the gist of the story is if you get a hold of a super weapon and if you know how to use it, you can essentially take over the world.
So
they're unstoppable, completely. I'm waiting for us to have to stop them. Give it time.
Give it time. So
maybe when the world government arc eventually comes around, if they ever have one.
So
the world government must have one, but we don't know that yet, and that's pure speculation.
So anyway, this whole time you're thinking that Vivi is going to be a part of the Straw Hats.
That's a good point to bring up.
So you're thinking that she's going to be the new crew member going forward,
and you're pretty convinced of it too.
Well, until the last second. When you realize that,
she can't.
No, it's not that she can't. It's that she wants to dedicate herself to her country.
She shouldn't, and they all know it. And that's why and so it's interesting because we mentioned, and I tried to bring this up earlier, and I think I got sidetracked. They had come up with this idea of a way to tell apart Mr. 2 from them.
Yeah, go ahead.
They had put on these bandages, and we spoke about it. And so the thing is that obviously a bandage is very easy to copy, but it's a 2-leveled seal. Because essentially what happens is when you remove the bandage underneath it, Mr. 2 would have no idea of this. It's, of course, an arm. He figures the bandage is the thing that would show off. But underneath the bandage is an X.
Yep.
I'm not sure if it's tattooed on or if it was just marker. I think it was marker.
I want to say it's marker because they don't...
I think it comes off because you don't see it later.
You don't see it in anything going forward, and like there's like chapters that I've read where...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's marker.
It's marker.
But the idea is that, obviously marker comes off, but the idea is that there's no way for the guy copying you, even if he assumes there's something under the bandage, there's no way for him to copy it.
Yep.
He can't just assume it's an X and put it in the right spot. And so that's how they tell, and at the very end when Vivi goes to leave,
because the Straw Hats can't get any credit. Go ahead.
They can't be given credit officially. Vivi almost joins them. She goes to see them off and almost leaves, at which point they all just kind of turn their backs to her. And, she's at first she's a little upset, and then they just raise their arms showing the X.
Well,
it's a sign of solidarity.
Well, part of it is...
She's unofficially a member.
One of the things that they're talking about in this scene is that, one of the things that you deal with in life is when you have to separate from your friends, and this is it's a very heartfelt moment when she's... I don't know what she says exactly, but...
I don't remember, but it's something along the lines of, I'll never forget you.
That, and she wants to know if everything was real.
Yeah.
And when they turn their backs to her, they put out their arms and they show the symbol that they all shared, and she goes off, and she's going to be a princess for a while.
For the country, yeah.
And
maybe they're going to join later, we don't know. It's unlikely, but it's possible.
So
I'm sure the relationship will come up again.
So the last part of the arc is Nico Robin, who we met in the end of Whiskey Peak, and she's been a villain the whole time, but she's been sort of indifferent. She hasn't done anything to the Straw Hats particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Joins the crew. She joins the crew.
It's almost random. It almost feels absolutely random.
It's yeah.
But Luffy endorses it, so it happens.
But no,
the rest of the crew is not happy.
Well, no, this is how hilarious Luffy is as a character. She has this ability to make hands come out of anywhere.
Yeah.
So she just takes hands, grows it out of his hat, and makes it look like he's Chopper.
Yeah.
So she makes jokes for 2 seconds.
And Luffy's like, you're mine.
Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper are all on board immediately.
Instantaneously, the naive character's like, you're hysterical. You're ours.
Yep.
We want you.
And
not because you're able to read this ancient language or because you're immensely powerful. You're hysterical. You're ours.
All the arcs of One Piece are very good. I said, this is my least favorite one.
But they're all. But your least favorite's still a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
If not a 6.
Oh yeah.
It's just not a 9 or a 10 out of 10.
It has a lot of cool moments in it, the fight with the crocodile, the fight with Usopp going. This is a very strong Usopp arc in terms of what he did in Little Garden, what he did in
he probably gets the
Alabaster.
most character development over anyone other than maybe Chopper.
I
think that Smoker gets a lot of character development, but Usopp goes from being just a pure coward to not a warrior, but being able to hold his own when he has to. You learn that Usopp isn't just a coward. You learn that he can stand his ground when he needs to.
Yep.
It may not be through pure force.
Once Usopp digs down deep,
he's a warrior. Even if he's not an outwards warrior.
Yep. And Nami, throughout this time, she grows as a not a fighter, but because that's towards the end.
She becomes self-sufficient, and I think that's a big growth point for her too.
I think she is aware of her.
She knows her weaknesses
and her place in the crew.
But she knows that if there's a major fight going on, stick the swordsman and the rubber man in front. Along with the cook. But she also knows that there are things that they can't handle,
Like, this is the arc where she goes from, like, I have to call Luffy or Sanji or Zoro to, I
can
got
handle
this.
myself. Yeah.
I got this.
I may not be taking on the major, the top end of the spectrum, but I'm not useless. I'm not incapable. I'm a modern-day woman feminist. I'm going to handle this myself.
Then,
even though I'm wearing, like, an 8.5 piece by 11's worth of clothing.
I think Sanji has, like, not the...
He doesn't get a lot of character development, but he's already kind of a badass.
Like, he just shows up, like, does a couple jokes, kicks some ass, and, like, Zoro is sort of the same.
Yeah, Zoro and Sanji don't really receive a lot of character development in general, because they are kind of badass. Luffy's got his quirks, but I mean, what other than getting lost all the time, Zoro doesn't really have a weakness.
Yeah, those three don't get the most character development because I think they're the most, like, formed for the most part. They just have to be better versions of themselves.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Luffy eventually gets some powers, but I mean, he doesn't change as a person.
Well, Luffy doesn't, like... Luffy lets us in on his abilities later.
Yeah.
Like, it's a couple arcs before he starts showing off
additional capabilities.
His additional capabilities, and it's even an arc after that until he, like, learns new stuff.
But I mean, he doesn't change as a person, whereas, Usopp and Nami and Chopper really changes people. The one thing that Luffy eventually gains a little bit of character, but even then, like, he really doesn't change. He doesn't show growth as a person. He just continues to show off his qualities of loyalty and care.
Yep.
Which are good, don't get me wrong, and the way that they do it is incredible. But he doesn't, like, he doesn't mature, at least not yet anyway. He hasn't matured.
Well, he hits the ground running as fully formed personality.
Yeah. But he's also got the most screen time. That's how it always works.
Yep.
Before you meet your third or fourth crew person, you know virtually everything there is to know about Luffy as far as character development goes. His abilities might become more refined later, but, his core values are fully there.
All right, larger things that this arc contributed to One Piece. This is the first case we have of like the corruption that is inherent in the system, because when you have 7 warlord pirates, and you just whatever they're doing, you're looking away.
Yeah, that's a major piece. One of the other major things that it hints at, which becomes a huge plot point later on, is the idea that there's history that we don't know. And it does that via the poneglyph, which becomes a humongous component of the story later on.
Yep. So, there's that.
It also sheds some light on how to beat Logia types.
Well, that was the thing that they were going to have to...
Or I guess more importantly, it sheds light on the fact that there's always a weakness.
Well...
Maybe not necessarily how to beat them.
This is the first arc where they mention the 4 emperors, because Ace probably brings up Whitebeard.
I don't think so, because you don't know who Ace works for yet. He just tells you that there's somebody who betrayed a member of his crew.
Well,
they leave that up to...
I'm trying to figure out if
unknowns.
I'm trying to remember if Whitebeard is mentioned, because he believes that Whitebeard is the greatest pirate he's ever served.
He's not. He does tell Luffy that there's someone else he wants to make the Pirate King.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure they don't name him yet.
Yep.
They leave that out as a suspense point. But they at least tell you that there's someone out there. I think the fact that they introduced the idea that, you have to know that Luffy's not the strongest yet, because it's fairly early in the story, but they hint very heavily that there's not just 1 or 2 people he needs to beat, but that he's at essentially the bottom rung of the ladder. Because up until now, he's basically met people who should be stronger than him and beaten them in the face with his fist. And, they hint not only because he loses, but also because he meets Ace, a man who, from what you can tell, is the strongest.
Yep.
Always beats Luffy without even trying. And there's a man so powerful that made Ace want to not only follow him, but actually gave up on being a captain, which was, of course, as mentioned, his dream to become the king of the pirates.
So, all right, one last thing before we close this off.
Sure.
This is the one where I'm trying to remember if everyone got a wanted poster afterwards, but I know for a fact that
I think it's just
Luffy,
the 3 of them.
And no, it was Luffy and Zoro that I know for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure that... I don't think we've gotten the fun Sanji poster just yet.
Okay, so Luffy gets 100 million berries, and Zoro gets 60 million berries, and it's a point of emphasis. And
it's one of pride, too.
Well, in the Zoro one, wasn't Usopp in the picture?
I think he's in the background, yeah.
It was either Luffy or Zoro that Usopp was in the background, and that was like the... Or maybe it was early on that like he was in the background of Luffy's.
I'm not positive, but it does become apparent that
Well, it was a joking issue because Sanji didn't get one, so...
Yeah.
It
was noted pretty heavily.
Like, that was the joke.
And they played pretty hard on that later on, too.
That's going to be fun to talk about.
I can't wait for it.
All right, I'm Matt. I'm signing off.
Take care, guys. Hope I didn't drive you too crazy, buddy.
Hi, my name is Matt.
I'm Aaron.
This is part 2 of the One Piece companion discussion saga. Today we're going to be talking about the Alabaster saga, which consists of the Reverse Mountain arc.